very wealthy guy, who wrote an editorial saying that the bottom 99% anger with the top 1% is just like crystal knots. So this is, I think, what they go up there and they come away thinking this sort of stuff.
Oh, you mean Tom Perkins' editorial comparing the plight of the top 1% with crystal knots?
Yeah. Speaking of German warships.
Yeah, I mean that famous day in Nazi history where the Nazis declared open season on the Jews, and they were murdered and their shops were closed, and so Tom Peters is equating the plight of the 1%, which is sad. I mean, Aaron Swartz is really his being pursued to death by Chris Dodd and the MPAA. That was more of a crystal knot moment in American history.
So now let's look at this Davos discount and apply it to perhaps, you know, the governments, the politicians, the heads of state that also go up to Davos, like David Cameron was up there this year. So let's look at the Davos discount, which can be applied to the UK economy and GDP and the wealth of this nation. Judge the Royal Mail sale in 3 months, said Vince Cable. Time's up. Today's share price confirms the company was grossly undervalued, cheating the taxpayer out of billions of pounds. So remember, just after the Royal Mail was made public, and Vince Cable set the price at 280p, and when it popped by like 30–40%, he said, don't count this. This is just speculation. Come back to me in 3 months and see what the price is then. Well, it's up to 610p, and that means that the British taxpayer has lost 2.8 billion pounds in wealth that they could have had for their Royal Mail, which they built up over a generation.
This is part of Britain's program, or pogrom, since we're talking crystal knock, of selling off the jewels of the British economy to private shysters, whether it's the Royal Mail, which they mispriced at the behest of criminals like J.P. Morgan. In any ordinary contractual context, there would be a clawback provision that would allow for the mispricing to be overcome by having the ability to claw back funds, in this case back to the British people who built this asset over a number of generations. But those types of clauses are not available for the average schmuck that lives in Britain, who's exposed to financial terrorism on a daily basis and just has to suck it up, baby, suck it up. It's crystal knock.
Now, regarding this sale, of course, it was Goldman Sachs and UBS which floated the company, that took the company public. And Goldman Sachs and UBS, the companies, paid a stonking £16.9 million by the government for managing the privatization, were questioned about the price discrepancy by a parliamentary committee in November. They denied any impropriety, claimed the 330p price was correct according to their research, and described the whole fiasco as a well-executed transaction. Less than a week later, Goldman Sachs issued a note to its investors advising them that the price of the shares would settle at about 610p, which they have now settled at. Now, J.P. Morgan at the time told the government, when they were in for the running of taking the company public, the Royal Mail, they said it would be 600 to 700p. So they could have gone with that. Instead, they chose, for some reason, to leave 2.8 billion pounds on the table for, how did they end up losing that money? It's the Davos discount. It was the kickbacks from some party. They were disco dancing on a dance floor with Jamie Dimon or Lloyd Blankfein in this case, and a deal was struck.
Right. I mean, it's incorrect to say there was no impropriety. The Goldman Sachs is, in that case, lying. There was an impropriety, as usual. And the problem coming out of the 2008 scandal is that the banks that were caught committing fraud during the subprime crisis, the CDO crisis, the LIBOR rigging, the Forex rigging, the gold market rigging, the energy market rigging, those banks never suffered any consequences or regulatory overhaul. They've been told, in fact, that to be a crook is to be rewarded. And Jamie Dimon is the poster child for this. Why should Goldman Sachs obey the law? Why should HSBC obey the law? When here's a guy, Jamie Dimon, who's broken the law innumerable times, and they give him a big fat $20 million payday to be a celebrity crook. There's no incentive to obey the law. If you're below the line, if you're living on a council flat, and you're starving, and you need to steal a donut to keep another day afloat on this planet, then you're going to jail.
Well, I like the idea of a celebrity crook, and it could be, you know, a celebrity crook TV show, because people like reality TV shows, and that's the only way most people ever learn their information or know information about the culture and society around them.
Yeah, they like celebrity cooks, except they're celebrity cooks. Everyone likes those celebrity cooking shows. This is a celebrity cook show. So instead of cooking, let's say, brownies for some celebrities, Jamie Dimon and KPMG or Deloitte & Touche or Ernst & Young or the other one, they can cook the books that they're so good at. They've been proven to cook the books, and there's Jamie Dimon cooking the books. He's a celebrity cook on A&E or some network, some cooking show, and there he is. He's a celebrity cook. And then let's all celebrate the fact that people like the Royal Mail float absolutely hammered people with a horrible deal. They sold a jewel. That income, those shares are now in the pension accounts of Germany. The German people are getting the income from the Royal Mail. All European states around the world that have a functioning welfare state like Germany and others, they bought those shares because they want the income from Mr. and Mrs. Joe Baga Lager here in Britain, putting their little postage stamps on packages, and putting it into the big red box. Okay, 10p of every transaction goes to some, German Frau living the good life on your hard work, suckers.
Well, let's roll back the tape and look at that German warship that was coming down here. They were probably investigating their little investment in the Royal Mail. Now, of course, the UK government left £2.8 billion on the table. That is 6 times more than this bedroom tax, which is throwing old people out to the street, very severely disabled people out into the street. People have committed suicide based on this.
That's crystal knock.
Yeah.
Right there, the government and the bedroom tax. Let's throw the British people out onto the street, and it's open season to commit violence against their own people. That's crystal knock. That's Osborne and Cameron's crystal knock. Tom Perkins. It's not Tom Perkins. The fact that you have to spend $30,000 on a hooker at Davos this year does not mean you're suffering. If you're in the bedroom tax, you're thrown in the street and you're starving to death because you've been scapegoated by you, Tom Perkins. You're the perpetrator of the Holocaust, Tom Perkins. Wake up to your own reality.
Well, they call it well-executed transactions. That's this financial holocaust, this financial wipeout, this meltdown. Of course, everything is going wild again, of course, in the markets, but they call it a well-executed transaction. That's the Davos discount. That's why if you go up to Davos and mingle with these people and go disco dancing with them, and Lord knows what else they do in the middle of the night, you're going to end up with a 40% less than when you went there, as the Economist chart showed. Now, regarding all of this, what you do, the revolution, I want to show a little clip from the Juice Rap News.
Turning now to tax and finance with Max Kaiser.
Oh boy, feeding boat people to sharks in Australia? I know what you're thinking, pal. That sounds a lot like the central banks and what they're doing to the nation's wealth. Right, Stacey?
Rob it.
That's it, they just rob it.
How can we stop it?
Bypass the Fed's pockets, fight kleptocurrency with cryptocurrency. That's the solution. Behead the banksters with the silver axe revolution.
Revolution? What's pop culture got to say? Russell Brand? What, Robert? Am I a mere celebrity? Am I not a man? Ain't I got brains, synonyms, metonyms in my gut I can? What if I spoke all grandiloquent? Would you better understand?
And Kaiser, revolution's my idea. So you say, but do you have a plan? I do. Bitcoin. Buy today.
Bitcoin? I'm the Messiah.
Well, Russell Brand recently called for a revolution, and so did I. Except Russell Brand has nothing to back up his
call for revolution.
Yeah. But I do. I have the Bitcoin as well as monopsony.
You can say that now. You must have got some treatment.
Yeah, I can say monopsony, like the program to save the NHS.
Yes.
Okay, those are real hard things one can do. Russell Brand is just, shaking his locks around. He has no plan at all except to say, "Oh, I'm worried. I'm concerned."
Well, and finally on this, I will say that the blockchain would have prevented this well-executed transaction by which the UK taxpayer lost 80% left on the table with the Royal Mail deal. So had this all been on the blockchain, all of our contracts, all of our ownership, all of our wealth on a blockchain, we would know what we really had and who was stripping who.
Is it a well-executed transaction or a transaction geared toward execution? All right, Stacey, thanks. We got to go.
Ciao.
Stay tuned for the second half. A whole lot more.